Hiya! This is my book chat on PoetX. I read PoetX as the last book of the Booktubeathon, and I didn't know if I was going to finish it in time for the Booktubeathon, but I sat down and I started reading it and I could not put it down, so I did. I loved this book. It was definitely a 5-star read for me. It's about a girl who is a poet, and it's a novel written mostly in verse. The girl is a poet and she's going through adolescence, but her mother is like hyper-religious, so she's dealing with the fact that she's not particularly religious, and also the feelings you feel in adolescence conflicting with what her mother says is right and wrong, and how to navigate that relationship and deal with her own personal stuff, as well as her relationship with her twin. I give this 5 stars and I really loved it. I do feel I should put out there that there's a trigger warning for emotional, verbal, and physical abuse. I would recommend it to pretty much anyone though. The characters are well developed and you really feel a close connection to them. Normally I struggle with contemporaries a little bit because I always feel like the plot is sort of non-existent, which I'm not really sure that this one has that strong of a plot. It's more of a character development story. So if you're really into that kind of thing and you like reading poetry, especially modern poetry, I think you definitely should pick this up. That concludes the non-spoilery section of this video. So if you don't want any spoilers, go read the book and come back. Okay, I really enjoyed the alternate format. It's a very diverse book. There's plus size representation, racial representation, and sexuality representation. The main character is the child of immigrants. She's Hispanic and bilingual. Her mother speaks mainly Spanish, but the main character and her brother are both bilingual. The main character is a twin, and the relationship between her and her brother is really great. They accept each other for who they are. She's kind of the tough one and he's kind of the smart one, so she stands up for him, and he kind of understands who she is in terms of poetry and really respects it and encourages that side of her. So he encourages her to sort of embrace that side rather than always being so tough and using her fists. Like, use your words, not your fists. As I said, the mother is hyper-religious. It's said early in the book that her mother had originally wanted to be a nun and somehow got talked into marrying her father so she could go to the United States. Her mother always seems to still want to be a nun, and she shames both the kids in like things that are natural for an adolescent to go through, but she shames them to the point where there is one scene where she forces Xiomara, the main character, to kneel on uncooked rice for hours praying in front of prayer candles, and obviously that causes physical harm, and Xiomara is in incredible pain for a couple days afterwards, and that was punishment for finding out that she had kissed a boy. Her mother also burns her poetry book when she finds it, saying that she writes basically filth because she writes about love and the sexual feelings that she has, trying to sort through those feelings because she can't talk to anyone about them because she can't talk to her mom about them. And when she tries to talk to her best friend, which I do love the relationship between her best friend and her, but her best friend also is sort of like, I don't want to hear it, because her best friend is also quite religious. Speaking of her best friend kind of reminds me of my best friend growing up. My best friend growing up was more religious and took a lot of things more seriously than I did, but in the end she would have had my back if I needed it, and just like Carrie Dad had Xiomara's back. And then also when they found out, when the kids found out that Xiomara's brother, her twin, is gay, Xiomara just accepted it, and I think she was more upset that he didn't just tell her and he didn't feel comfortable talking to her because they're like each other's person. But they accepted that about him, whereas like they knew that their parent wouldn't accept it, which was really sad. They also want to protect each other in their own way. Like, twin sort of takes some of the heat off of Xiomara when he can, and Xiomara will physically protect her brother. Her brother will give her notebooks and other sorts of things like that because he wants to protect her love of writing and help her grow as a person. Xiomara's teacher was really great. She encouraged Xiomara to go to poetry club and develop her skills, and that club actually really helped Xiomara. She met a lot of people that she could connect to. She didn't feel so alone, and at one point she actually says Tuesday had become her Sunday because poetry had become her religion. She said, "It has brought me the most light, and isn't that what a poem is? A lantern glowing in the dark." And that was the thing too about the writing of this book. Because it was written in poetry, so much of the writing was very poetic and metaphorical, and it really was just beautiful. Like in the beginning when she's talking about how hard it is for her that so much attention is paid to her body and she doesn't want it to be, she says, "I've forced my skin just as thick as I am." At one point her brother, when he's encouraging her with her poetry, says, "This world's been waiting for your genius a long time." Even though Xiomara respects and accepts her brother's sexuality, she does say, "But I don't even know what I'm going to say. I only know I've always wanted to keep him safe, but this makes him a target, and I can't defend against the arrows I know are coming." So even though she accepts this for him, she is scared for him because she knows that he is going to face hardship for this. And I actually kind of think that's quite beautiful, because even though she accepts it and she feels sad for him that he can't just be who he is, that he has to face this world of threat. When she's talking about her teacher, she says, "But it feels like an adult has finally really heard me, and for the first time since the incident, I feel something close to happiness." And something else I really loved about this book was the relationships. A lot of time in young adult literature, the relationships are all either like really awful or really fantastic, and they're unrealistic. And in this, it's much more realistic. Her brother's relationship with his boyfriend, like they have a really great relationship and everything, but then his boyfriend is moving away and he's sad because his boyfriend decides that he doesn't want to do long distance, and so Twin is very sad. The relationship between Xiomara and Aman, they go through ups and downs, they fight, they make up, he's there for her, she's there for him, and it's not perfect, it's not evil, it's kind of in the middle. It's kind of like what you would actually experience, because relationships when you're that age, you're coming of age and you're dealing with all these different emotions and figuring out who you are and dealing with the pressure and expectations that your parents put on you. And at one point she talks about this when she says, when they're going skating and he's very good at it, and she asks him how he got so good, and he said that he just practiced. His father didn't want to send him to classes because he thought skating was soft. And she says, "And now his smile is a little sad, and I think about all the things we could be if we were never told our bodies were not built for them." Because her mother is constantly telling her, "No, you can't do that because of this." And in both cases, it's very hard for them to figure out who they are when they're always told who they should be and who they cannot be. So I thought overall the book was really interesting, not because of the alternative format and because I love the characters, but also because it navigated the idea of coming of age in an environment where your parents' viewpoints are so incredibly opposite of yours, and how the characters sort of figure that out. I really hope that more books that are like really hard-hitting like that continue to come out, because so often the books have parents that are sort of either absent, or it's almost like they could be absent because it doesn't matter. So I would recommend this to pretty much everyone of any age. It was a really enjoyable read as well as a thought-provoking one, and I think I'll pick up any books that come out by Elizabeth Acevado in the future. In the meantime, as always, there are so many books and so little time, so I'm gonna go read, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!